now that we got our fan switch mounted up there, we're gonna have to work our way back, starting with getting all the main electrical components in. We've got our winch power lines coming in from front and rear. We've got obviously our starter lead and our main ground lead, and then starting to work in here, kind of getting things buttoned down so we know where things are gonna fit. So we got our battery tray kind of where we want it set up. Let's maximize the amount of space we have inside our handy dandy tool chest here. So air compressor for both the air ride seats, and if you ever need air for your tires, most of mine are foam filled, but who knows when you might have to help somebody out on the side of the trail, or trailer tires on your trailer. So that's always a good option to have. And then so just kind of trying to test fit things, figure out where things are going to make the most amount of sense, give us the most amount of space, and so we can utilize this for regular toolbox too at the same time. So let's get at it. Move this side so you can see a little better, but I've got electricals on the motors on that side, so I think it makes the most sense to keep electrical all back here so you don't get any wires potentially getting damaged when you're in and out of the toolbox. The other thing you have here too is you have the air connection, so that's going to have to go up and over, which we've already got our holes drilled going here across to the driver's side. Passenger side, we'll just have to pop that in when we figure out where that air line needs to be. So battery tray, haven't decided yet. I'm going to make that this way. I think that gains us a little more space. There's not a ton of room right here, but I think what that does is that's going to maximize the amount of space here. I think a little bit snug, but it's going to maximize the amount of space in here for us. We might end up having to move the battery disconnect. I'm going to grab the battery, we're going to slide that in there, and we'll see where that's going to set. So no, I'm not using a deep cycle battery in this machine. This is just what I have for test fitting. So, because it's a group 31, and I just like the ability to group 31. They're easy to find. They have a ton of carrying capacity, and if we ever needed to, we can always add a second tray right here. So we can get that 2 batteries set up if it comes down to it, if we've got too much amp draw. But with the high output alternator that we put on here, I don't think we're gonna have any issues. The only reason you'd wanna do the double battery is if we got into an overland camping situation, which within the back we'll be able to set up with that. And but with the voltage monitors on my USB ports, we'll be able to keep an eye on that, set an alarm if it does drop below a certain level, and then start the Snowcat and be fine, have it charge it up again, and then run for camping. So, but we do have the option here, enough space here, to do that second battery if we need to. So what I'm doing now is I'm marking the bolt holes on the back here so that I know where this bolt hole needs to be drilled at to hold this panel in place so it sits flush. finding a good spot to do a common ground. So I've got my frame ground and all my commons tied together. So it's a little tricky. Now, my original plan originally called for, as you can see, these holes here, that the battery cables would all come through, and then I'd grommet every one of these holes, and then bring in the battery cables in here, and then I'd terminate them all, and then get a switch on here. The switch is actually kind of convenient. It's a through bulkhead fitting style. So with that, I think our best route is to keep all the cables so I don't risk ever cutting them as they come through like that. Plus give them a little slack, is actually we're gonna put the switch, we're gonna mount it up over here, come through the bulkhead, and then that brings the positive bank inside the entire engine bay here. And that's gonna give me the ability, if I ever needed to add into, just lift up the hatch, tag on a wire here, or if the switch ever goes out, and just jump them on the same pole as your battery lead. That keeps everything clean. We'll have one cable going in, one cable going out to meet up with the disconnect, and that's it. Keeps everything inside the toolbox nice and clean, so there's no tools bouncing around, a ton of wires to get caught, rip open, any of that. It's all gonna be inside the engine compartment. So I think that's gonna be our best bet, and we're gonna go for it. So we'll mark everything out, drill it, and then come back. We're gonna switch this out to threaded rod, and then that way it'll thread on both sides, and that'll be our through bulkhead fitting for our negative wire. And that's gonna give us solid ground to go off of. Plus, add is in our frame tie ground, so. So what I've got here is I've got a piece of ready rod or all thread or whatever you want to call it that I've put a lock nut on. I'm going to put it through the fitting here, and then I'm going to put a lock nut on the other side, and then I'll use regular nuts on the outside to tighten up the cables. That way whenever you got to spin one off, it's not internally turning on you. But one thing that anytime you're working with dissimilar metals, it's called kernel X. Power linemen use it, especially when they're going from copper to aluminum. But what it does is it prevents the oxidization and corrosion between dissimilar metals. So anytime you got steel to copper to aluminum or anything like that, this kernel X is going to prevent that from corroding or oxidizing. So definitely want to put it on liberally, and it's going to help protect your connections all the way around, especially doing through a frame like this kind of style mount. So I'm just going ahead and add some to it. I'm gonna use a nut to distribute it all evenly here. I'm working it in all the threads, not just the ones that are gonna have a nut in them. And it's like anti-seize, you're gonna get covered in it, but hey, you're better for it than without it. So just put those as one of your badge of honors, and it's a little better than anti-seize because it's not as silver, so you can't tell that it's on every part of everything you touch from now on, but you will still notice it being there. So I drilled the rest of the holes out for the firewall there. Once that's all, I painted it then. Once that's all dry, we'll go ahead and install this in. I'm just gonna kind of mock this up so it's in place so I don't forget it as I put the bulkhead in. Just gonna put that on to hold it, and that will make that solid there. So the other thing we got to do is we gotta just loosen this bolt so that when we do put that fitting in there, that's gonna sandwich that piece right into place. So. Okay, getting ready to, we got our panel all prepped, got the rest of the holes drilled that we needed to hold, painted, and then we're getting ready to stick this back on the firewall. So we got everything mocked up, got our bolts through where we need them to, our pre-drilled holes, everything. So one thing, and then we're gonna use the VHB tape. So if, and that's what we're gonna use for attaching all the side panels and that. And it's kind of one of those concepts that's, you'd think rivets, fasteners, all that's better, but I've used this and it's been around the industry for decades, and of course made by 3M, so another Minnesota company. But this VHB tape is unbelievable. The strength, unreal. It's what NASCAR uses to put all their body panels on. So if it can hold up to 200 miles an hour in all different types of conditions on the track, it's definitely good enough for a Snowcat. Fish house manufacturers, Yeti in particular, they use this same exact tape for attaching and bonding all of their side panels to their fish houses, and they go up and down the road for thousands and thousands of miles. So I've personally had the chance to try and separate two panels that were stuck to this, my Featherlight trailer. The aluminum panels are stuck to sheeting with this, and the oscillating saw would rather cut through the aluminum than separate the joint where this joint was made. So this VHB tape is a 4956. I pick it up at Uline. They seem to have a great supply on hand in that, and it's a double-sided tape. You can get them in different thicknesses, different widths. This here I'm using the 3/4 because the 3/4 works great on this 1-inch angle and 1-inch tubing. So you do have to do a little bit of prep work. They sell a special cleaning solution. I'm sure that's probably top-notch. But if you just get at least a 70% isopropyl alcohol and then clean all the surface extremely good, press it together, and that longer that you can hold that press seal is great. Where's the roller at? Here's the roller. And then I use this roller, and it's a pressure-based adhesive. So when you go ahead and roll that on, That pressure is what sets that bond, and it is permanent, absolutely permanent. So you can fit it and all that before you apply pressure to it, but once you apply pressure to it, you're done. So don't try and separate it. So good luck with that, and we'll go ahead and get started here. I went ahead and put this in Hyperloop mode because it's about 15 to 20 minutes of actual just setting tape. You guys know what that's all about, but leave that tape backer on there, and as you can see, I flipped that tab up. That allows you to position all of your panels exactly where you want them. Nice thing about the tape too that nobody's going to mention, it creates a vibration-free environment. That tape's not going to allow any rattle between bolts or rivets. So that is a #1 side benefit to this tape other than a permanent bond. Go ahead, hope you enjoyed this video. Give me a like, thumbs up, subscribe, hit that smash button, and thanks for joining us. See you on the next one.